My name is Jordan Mellinger, and this is my second briefing for aviation meteorology. Starting with the surface analysis chart, we can see most notably a high pressure system over Wisconsin following a low pressure front covering much of the U.S. extending from Arkansas through Quebec and Newfoundland. Through the rest of the Midwest, moving to the west, we see a high pressure system in Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming, with a warm front extending from the edge of Alberta through Montana and South Dakota, with a further high pressure system in Mexico just south of Texas and low pressure system in the South Atlantic wall. In the west, we see high pressure systems in the north, just north of Washington and Vancouver, and a low pressure system hanging off the North Pacific coast and in the Gulf of California. Moving to the radar, we can see a line of light to moderate rain with pockets of moderate to heavy rain covering the northeast extending to Tennessee with scattered pockets over North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Texas and the Gulf Coast, and California, Nevada, which we can see lines up with the densest cloud coverage on the visible satellite imagery over New England, Tennessee, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Texas, and California, Nevada. However, when we move to the IR satellite, we can see a dense region of clouds extending to the north off of the system over California, Nevada. There is no precip noted on the weather radar over that southeastern region of Oregon. As for the convective outlook, we can see most of the country is covered by a general thunderstorm area extending down the northeast coast, covering all of the south through southwest, before extending up into parts of the Pacific Northwest and Midwest, with a small area of marginal risk over mid-Montana, just south of Canada. As for air mets, we can see starting off the Washington coast, IFR conditions in the Pacific at the mouth of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, mountain obscuration over the Olympic Mountains with high-level turbulence between 24,000 and 48,000 feet over Washington, Oregon, Idaho, western Montana, Wyoming, North California, and North Nevada. IFR conditions off the North California coast with freezing level ranging between 15 and 26,000. Low-level turbulence over most of Arizona between the surface and 12,000 and South Dakota between the surface and 8,000, while Michigan's LP and large chunks of New England see high-level turbulence between 24 and 48,000 and low-level turbulence at the surface to 8,000 with IFR conditions off the coast and icing between 15 and 27,000 extending into the south. While for SIGMETs we can see convective developing storms centered in the south moving up to New England along the coast, with the exception of a convective SIGMET on the North Dakota-South Dakota border. Here we see the PIREPs for the U.S. is a lot, but of particular note are the cluster of urgent PIREPs over Tennessee made by a Boeing 717 and Airbus A320 and an Embraer Phenom 300 for low-level wind shear and severe turbulence at mid to high altitude, being of particular concern to all aircraft due to the size of the aircraft making these reports. Alongside that, also of note are the low-level wind shear reports in the northeast made by lighter general aviation aircraft. It was an SR-22 and SS 402. Definitely something to keep an eye on, but maybe not quite as important as the reports made by larger, heavier aircraft. Nearly all the country has a freezing level ranging between 13 and 15,000 feet, with a small region of 9 to 13,000 feet over the Pacific Northwest coast, extending through central Washington, Oregon area, with the notable exception being Arizona and Mexico of a surface freezing level on the southern border. As for local weather, Grand Forks is currently seeing winds of 14 knots from 180 degrees with 10 statute miles of visibility and few clouds at 9,000 and 20,000 feet with a temperature dew point of 24 and 16. Overall, a very beautiful day for those of you in Grand Forks. As for the visible satellite, you can see a large coverage of clouds starting between Bismarck and Fargo, extending through South Dakota that we had talked about earlier with the rainfall. But other than that, there are scattered clouds over Devil's Lake, extending through Grand Forks into the Detroit Lakes area, leaving much of the state clear to enjoy the end of the weekend. And for the radar in that area, not much to see in the system to our south. Overall, made up of moderate rain with some pockets of heavier showers. Once that continues to move to the southeast like it is, there's not much to be expected for the area. And it's much the same story with PIREPs, with a Boeing 737 reporting negligible turbulence at 36,000 feet and a Piper PA-28A reporting moderate turbulence over Park Rapids between 2,400 and 5,500 feet, and that being it for North Dakota and Minnesota. Moving into the low-level prog charts, we will start to see marginal weather move into the west coast states, while most of the south turns to marginal, as well as areas of IFR on the west coast and over Arkansas, Georgia, and the Carolinas and the Virginias, while turbulence at mid-altitudes in the northwest subsides, but picks up in southern California at around 12,000 feet. As for the high level significant weather chart, the jet streams head north, starting in southern Cal and staying with the western states into Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba area before heading south into Ontario near Michigan's Upper Peninsula and following the Quebec coast into the North Atlantic, while ranging between a low altitude of 15,000 and a high altitude of 51,000, with the high part of the tropopause being at 52,000 feet around Baja and low sitting around the Vancouver coast at 31,000. While we have isolated, embedded, and occasional embedded cumulus clouds covering most of the south and southeast, with tops at 45,000 and bases below 25. As for ground force, we can see that the winds are out of the west-northwest at all altitudes. We're not going to go through them all because there's a lot of them, but we can also see that the freezing level is going to be ranging between 12,000 and 18,000 feet. And finally, for the TAF at Grand Forks, on the 6th, starting at 1739 Zulu, predicting to see winds at 170 degrees, 15 knots, with greater than 6 statute miles of visibility, and clouds at few clouds at 20,000 feet. And from the 7th at 01 Zulu, wind still out of 170 at 10 knots, greater than 6 statute miles of visibility, clouds not changing, still at 20,000 feet. And finally, winds 190 at 16, gusting 25, so winds will start picking up. Visibility will still be greater than 6 statute miles, and the ceiling will raise up another 5,000 feet to 25,000, starting on the 7th at 1700 Zulu.